Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Power Rangers episodes. So, 2 out of the 3 of these do have Tommy Oliver in them, so I'm dubbing them Tommy Oliver episodes. 2 out of the 3 are also to have Evil Rangers in them, so more than enough way to be really intrigued by these. So, with that said, we go on to have a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode that, of course, is to be Season 2, Episode 4, called The Wannabe Ranger. We have the Power Rangers Turbo episode 12, titled Alarmed and Dangerous. And then we have a Power Rangers in Space, episode 34, called Five of a Kind. And so, with that said, for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode, we have a monster called Primitor. I probably at some point was to have called this monster Primator because I assumed that Primate would be an interesting way to kind of connect me with this monster, but come to find out the way it's pronounced, it's Primitor. My bad. So, we come to find that Primitor is to have an ability to shift into any number of these Rangers at any time, also being the evil selves of Zach or Billy or whoever Primitor is to need to be for this story. And so I thought that this episode was great. I was to find it kind of at some points funny with some of the stuff that they said in this episode. Like we go on and we have Billy that calls Alpha a naughty boy, and I just thought that was odd. Like I was like, what kind of Power Rangers episode are we gonna get here? We're gonna get all of a sudden a bow chicka bow now, if you know what I mean. But no, it seemed like a normal Power Rangers episode, so I was like, okay, alright. So, we seem to have not only Zordon, who is to have to leave the command center for an episode, but we also find that Alpha is to get a bit of cabin fever also. So, we have our Rangers having a very difficult time trying to figure out how to beat this monster in this episode, and so they have to reflect with Zordon on how to beat this monster. So, we then go into the Power Rangers Turbo episode. So, Mighty Morphin, great. Turbo, we have this be an episode that I was really intrigued by the monster in this episode, and then come to find out when I watched it, I was like, yeah, the monster is in here very briefly. And so I started to more and more realize that they are to have a whole entire episode with a Justin story that is to deal with bullying. And I was like, oh, great, that sounds like a boatload of fun, right? No. So, with that said, of course, I am to go on and say that this Power Rangers Turbo episode is to probably be bad, if not worse. So yeah, so with that said, let's go on and let's talk about the Power Rangers in Space episode. So I've been wanting for a while to get back to the Psycho Rangers saga, and so of course I was to do that by going into this episode. Plus it also just made a lot of sense because we have 5 different Rangers all becoming one color, and so I thought that that was like a really cool, interesting episode, because of course, I would go on to see like Super Mega Force, and they would become like one color in certain episodes and stuff like that. But so, we, in this Power Rangers in Space episode, find out that TJ is just coming up with all kinds of strategies to try and beat the Psycho Rangers. At first, trying to have the colors not match against these Psycho Rangers, and that seems to at first be going really well, but it doesn't quite get the job exactly done. And so TJ comes up with another strategy, as well as them coming up with something on top of that to really just confuse the heck out of these Psycho Rangers, to possibly by the end of this episode beat one of them, to continue on this story until they are to beat all of the Psycho Rangers, which will happen in other episodes. The one probably complaint of which that I probably have about this episode is just clearly how it ends. Like, it just comes off as like, this is how you're going to end the episode? Okay, alright. Yeah. So, but other than that, I thought it was still a it was a great episode anyways, because it's Psycho Rangers. How can you not go on and be intrigued by that? There might be just some people that just don't like the Psycho Rangers, because of course, that is just your preference. Has anybody gone on to ever see the Power Rangers Wild Force episode, where we have like the weird, goofy, evil versions of the Wild Force ones, and they're black and it just looks weird, looks very cheap. But hey, when also looking at it, it's going to get to a point where I'm going to run out of Evil Ranger episodes to cover. So with that said, let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time I'm going to spoil these episodes. So, let's cover these. So, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode. While the Rangers are playing basketball, a man all of a sudden shows up in a gorilla suit to scare Kimberly. Come to find out, that man is none other than Zach, and he was to have, oddly enough, been wearing this gorilla costume to go to his cousin's birthday party. How old was his cousin? I would ask. Why a gorilla suit doesn't quite make sense. Anyways, so we are to all of a sudden have Zach kind of toss this costume aside so he can play some basketball. And then we all of a sudden have Alpha and Zordon having alarms go off for no reason that makes real sense to me. And so Zordon is calling Jason and all the rest of the Rangers to make their way to the command center, because he has to tell them something of dire importance, it seems. So the Rangers make their way to the command center, and we have Trini that's like, well, hey, is Zed up to no good? And we have Alpha that goes on to be like, well, it seems that we're not really quite focusing on Zed so much as Zordon. It's like, oh no, like, guys, everybody just circle around Zordon and just do this again. Just touch your hands and, like, Zordon will be okay. Do like you did in the first film, even though you don't know that yet, because, we're not up to that part yet in the show where you do the hand things. So, we come to find out that Zordon is to state that the solar system is to have changed, and that Zordon needs to deionize, and they had to come all the way to the command center for that. Zordon's getting a software update, and everybody just come to the command center because they need to be aware of that. Sure. And even Billy has to even explain to the Rangers, because they don't even know what deionizing means. And so Billy explains that Zordon will lose his powers for a brief time. He won't be in the command center, but hey, he's going to come back. So Jason must be on alert at all times, because Alpha is going to have to signal him when there could be an alert of some sort, because I guess Zordon can't do it himself because he's gone. So Jason is like, okay, like, a good waste of my time here to just be here, but like, hey, let's get out of here. So the Rangers leave, Zordon leaves to go on and do some deionizing, and so we just have Alpha in this command center, and Alpha's to go on and state that Alpha is so cold and lonely. And you know how I know and I can tell that Alpha is cold? Because we're connected. I love you 3000, Alpha. Iron Man 3 for you. As well as Endgame. So, putties are coming back from a bathroom break, making their way to Zed's throne. Zed tells Zordon to say goodbye, as his new monster will destroy the Rangers forever, or until they can come up with a new season name. Zeo? Turbo? Whichever ones don't have any of these Rangers left in them. So, Zed knows about the planet's alignment, and shouldn't have, like, if Zed already knew that this was going to go on, shouldn't he have, like, already pounced at this? Shouldn't he have just, like, kind of, like, thrown everything at the Rangers all at one time? Because he's like, yeah, like, Zordon's deionizing, man, this is going to be, like, the peak of me just wiping out the Rangers. But no, like, Zed is like, yeah, I'll just kind of send the usual one monster out there, see what happens. So Zed is to take Zack's costume and turn it into the Primator. So Alpha is in the command center, bored, and is to be watching a few channels on the viewing globe. So Alpha all of a sudden finds a missing boy and feels that instead of just calling the Rangers, he calls upon himself to teleport and help out this missing kid. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, Alpha, shouldn't you have, like, stayed at the command center? Because Zordon told you that, like, you need to be here to, like, give Jason an alert to let him know, like, things are going on. Things are going south. So we have Bulk and Skull then end up getting scared by Alpha. And I'm thinking in my brain, like, if Bulk and Skull can so easily get scared by Alpha, what makes me think that this little kid isn't going to get scared by Alpha? Because when you think about it, when all the Rangers had turned to their younger selves, Alpha was tempted to teleport all of them into Command Center, and Zordon's like, no, 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 no. Like, you could terrify them if you do so. And so, like, if Alpha shows up right in front of this kid, is he gonna be like, oh my god? No. Like, the kid doesn't seem scared at all. But oddly enough, we had Bulk and Skull who were scared. So there, of course, be characters that are to be even more scared of Alpha than a child would. Isn't that pretty bad? So Alpha is to talk some, like, weird gangster slang kind of stuff. And so he's like, hey, I need to do my thing, and humans be strange. So Alpha helps Dylan by them staying in one place. Wow, what a way to help a person out. Yeah, like, here's how we can just, like, solve this problem by just doing nothing and just being in one location. Sounds rational. Alpha could go on and take this kid and teleport him to, like, a police station or something. But no, like, we just have Alpha who's like, well, let's just stay here because I need to wait for a monster to come at me, bro. So Dylan wants to play soccer But Alpha doesn't understand that sports life. So Primitor is to turn into Billy and just do a little of that like chest beating, if you know what I'm saying. So Zed plans uh for destroying Zordon and the Rangers. And so I'm like, wait a minute. So Zed wants to like destroy Zordon and the Rangers. So he like at first he's just like, oh, okay, like let's just destroy the Power Ranger. But now he's like, well, like no, how about we destroy Zordon first, then the. So he's coming up with the Ivan Ooze plan, where like Ivan Ooze just kind of strolls into the command center like it's nobody's business. And so Zed, I think, is to possibly have that same similar plan. But so we have Billy that is to come by and destroy by Primitor Billy, and is to tell that Alpha is a naughty boy. And at this point, I'm just like, what kind of show am I watching? Alpha is to realize that he's in trouble, and so he kind of tilts over a little bit. Billy all of a sudden is to look into his reflection, and it changes from Billy's reflection to Primitor's. And so then all of a sudden, Alpha is to realize that this is not really Billy, it's Primitor. And so Primitor grabs Dylan and then grabs Alpha. And so Primitor is wanting Alpha to take him to the command center. And Alpha's like, no! I will self-destruct! And so you would think when Alpha would self-destruct, he would probably do it like fairly like quickly, because this person could get like tortured for information, or like go on to like get one of those kind of collars on him, like the Keeper did in one of those other episodes, and have to like reveal all these secrets. But so Alpha goes into self-destruct, and then afterwards we find out that like Alpha will like self-destruct like 10 minutes from now. And so it's like, wait a minute, what? What's going on? So Primator becomes Zack and goes to the youth center and tells Kim and Trini Tommy's in trouble with putties. And so you would have thought that maybe Kimberly would have known what's what with Tommy, because she dates him, but no. And so they buy that because of course it's coming from Zack. So we have Kimberly and Trini that go to the park. They teleport there because somebody is bizarrely manning the teleports. I don't know who it is, but somebody's doing it. And maybe, yeah, like maybe they can use their watches or their communicators to teleport, but still, like I thought like Alpha really did that. But I guess that's just me. So when Kim and Trini make it to this location and find that Tommy isn't around, we have Kim and Trini that trying to communicate with Jason. And Jason, the one guy who should be waiting for an alert from his communicator, is too busy at Billy's lab, having these noise-canceling headphones on, to have heard this alert go off. So funny enough, we have putties that were sent anyways after Kim and Trini. luckily, there was enough putties to go around for these two rangers, as they could easily have, bizarrely, like, there's this weird wood thing kind of going on in this battle where we have Kim and Trini that are like smacking these putties against this like wood fence, and like Kim ends up kind of kind of walking up this tree and doing this kind of flip maneuver. And so I was like, what's up with all the wood in this episode for these putties? That was the kind of weird thing that stuck out to me. So after beating the putties, the girls go back to the youth center to check in on Tommy, because he is there just doing all these like kind of flipping and doing all these things. And they're like, wow, like, what was that for? What was any of that? What was the point? I don't know. It was there. Plus, also, there was one thing that at some point in an interview, like, Jason David Frank said, it's like, well, hey, yeah, like, save my energy. And when I was immediately just seeing, like, all of Tommy just doing all these, like, roundhouse kicks and all this stuff, I'm like, what was that for? Like, you could have just saved his energy and just had him just kind of, like, talk to the guys, and then Kim and Trini come in. But anyways, because they're going to be doing a lot of kicking and punching anyways, somewhere down the road. So we have Kim and Trini again check on Tommy. It seems that he's completely fine. And then they complain to Zach, like, oh, well, that was a horrible thing to do to us, Zach. And Zach's like, what are you talking about? And we have the guys who are telling Kim and Trini that they were at Billy's lab this whole time. And they try to use their communicators to talk to Alpha, but there's no response. There's no answer. So Dylan is checking up on Alpha, you know, like nothing better to do. So this kid is talking to Alpha, and it seems like Alpha is in better shape than Alpha was. But Alpha is to tell Dylan that Alpha will self-destruct now, within the next 10 minutes or so, because story says so. So the Rangers make their way to the command center, and I'm wondering how they had to hop, skip, and jump to get there in this episode. Because often, when there is no one actually there to teleport anybody, we then have to have the Rangers, like, try to huff it there. Or if, like, the teleporter thing doesn't work, then they have to kind of, like, drive cycles back and so on and so forth. So somebody must have had a car somewhere. Because I don't buy teleporting. That doesn't make sense. So, because you're doing that, like, far too early to then not have to do it later on, it doesn't make sense. But either way. So by the time the Rangers go to the command center, they find out that Zordon is back. So Zordon tells the Rangers about Alpha and now Primitor, as alarms wail for the right reason. Zordon tells Rangers Primitor can disguise himself, and Kim and Trini then realize that it wasn't Zach after all. It was an evil Zach. So everyone morphs and focuses on Primitor. So we all of a sudden find out there are to be now two Trinis, two Yellow Rangers. And so they're like, okay, like, how can we figure out who is the right Trini? And so Jason takes it upon himself to be like, well, hey, like, you Yellow Rangers, you're going to go on and you're going to fight me. And I'm going to find out who the the Yellow Ranger is because I know the Yellow Ranger style. And so we have Trini that goes on to the real Trini doesn't want to fight Jason, and the Primator Trini wants to, of course, go on and fight Jason. And so that's how they easily figure out, like, oh, this is the evil one. So Primator goes on and is to try and attack Jason, and then it appears as the gorilla. And so we all of a sudden have Primator with a staff that just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it starts attacking the Rangers. And so Jason takes his sword and cuts this staff in half. So now we're just back to regular old Primator. Why did he have to have a weapon? Was it just a thing to just have an accessory for the Primator action figure? I don't know. I don't get it. So we have the Rangers that are to regroup, of which they think is Zach, because Zach had gone on to alone try and face off against Primator, and they had kind of taken a tumble and fall and whatever. So, like, we have a Black Ranger that comes off, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm hurt." And when the Rangers are like, "Okay, hey, like, let's try to regroup and come up with a strategy," the Black Ranger starts attacking everybody, and then we realize that that's Primator. And so we then realize that Primator is consistently changing into other Rangers, and Jason, again, who wants to just kind of like, everybody just step aside, because I'm going to be the one that is to take on this monster alone, because, like, everything just has to be coming up Jason for this one. I don't know what it is. So, because he's the leader, of course he should just go on like, yeah, like, I'm gonna take control of the situation. So the Red Ranger is to fight off against the Primator one, and we have a Ranger get knocked back. And so when the Rangers start to surround the one Ranger that is down, we have the Red Ranger that goes on to tell, like, the Rangers, like, well, hey, like, no, that's the bogus one. That's the doppelganger one. And so they assume that he's telling the truth, and then come to find out, we have the Red Ranger that goes on, and the one that's next to them is the actual one, as the Primator Red Ranger goes on and blasts and attacks them, and does a really unique attack for the Red Ranger. And I thought that was like, man, that was really cool. That was like a one-of-a-kind like thing. So Jason is like, man, like, we cannot go on and figure out how to beat this monster, so, like, we're gonna teleport to the command center, we're gonna get out of here. So when the Rangers are talking to Zordon, Zordon tells the Rangers to look at the viewing globe, as they see Primator's reflection is his own weakness. So Kimberly somehow luckily has a mirror on her, because she always has one, and so they're like, aha. So bizarrely, they have to take this mirror and have a Triceratops symbol upon it for some goofy reason. Maybe they were going to try to sell it as some, like, merchandise thing and just didn't pan out. Not quite sure. But so when the Rangers go back into action, we find 3 Rangers are to at some point find Tommy. And Tommy's going on, and he's like, uh, like he's crying out, like, guys, I'm losing my powers. And he tells Rangers, like, hey man, like, this monster's too strong, we should give up. And so Jason just kicks Tommy. Like, I don't know if he is the evil Primator or not. I just want to kick Tommy. Like, that goes on and, like, gets back for all those times that you were evil, Tommy. So, we have Jason that justifies that kick by stating, like, well, hey, like, Tommy wouldn't just give up, so we know that this is Primator. And so Billy gives Tommy the mirror, and Tommy's green helmet, a portion of it starts to turn red, and we then have it be revealed that this is actually Primator, and Primator starts to become frustrated, breaking this mirror, and then just goes on to be Primator for the rest of the episode. So, Primator electrifies the Rangers with this attack, and Zed makes his monster bigger. The Rangers call for the Thunder Megazord as Tommy is to call for the Dragon Zord, which doesn't really have any huge real effect here. I almost kind of forgot that the Dragon Zord was even a thing. So, because what happens is that the Rangers take their saber and ka-slice, down another monster goes. So, Alpha is talking to Dylan, and he states that he only has 15 seconds, 14, 13, so on and so forth. And so the Rangers quickly teleport, because the funny thing is we couldn't have had the Rangers who knew not only about Primator, but also about Alpha. We couldn't have had, like, one Ranger like Billy who quickly goes to Alpha's aid and then fixes Alpha and then goes back into the fight. Oh, no, we can't have that. Because how many times has, like, Tommy the White Ranger just kind of wiped out, like, 4 monsters in one episode by himself, and so the Rangers couldn't handle Primator while Billy helps out Alpha? But so, the Rangers quickly teleport and save Alpha. Dylan's mom just takes up until now to finally find her kid, because maybe she was going on and like, you know what, I could just be away from my kid for another X number of minutes. Wow, what great parenting. So, we of course have Dylan's mom that is to thank the Power Rangers, and we of course have the Rangers that are like, oh no, like, you should really thank Alpha, as if she even knows who that is. So, when Alpha makes its way to the command center as well as with the other Rangers, we have Zordon who goes on and disciplines Alpha for going and doing that whole mission while he should have been here, just kind of manning the fort. And so we have Alpha, who one of the Rangers states is going to be grounded for like 1,000 years or something. And Alpha's like, oh no, I'll never get to learn how to play soccer. And so that's how the episode just kind of wraps up in that fun little way. So now on to the next episode, the Power Rangers Turbo episode. The episode where Justin gets bullied. Don't bully kids. Just only you can prevent bully fires and false alarms. that seems to be happening quite often in this episode. So, Mrs. Appleby has Catherine hand out tests as a student wants to get answers from Justin, who is called Reggie. As Reggie asks for number 4 of the answer of this test, Appleby overhears and is to excuse these guys from this test because, of course, they are to want to cheat off of Justin because he is to be the brainiac kid, I guess. So, Justin gets bullied by Reggie and Junior as we shift into intro. Go! Movie footage, this is. Hey, there's Adam! Gee whiz! So, now going back into things. So, Appleby has firemen show up unbelievably quick as there, of course, was a fire alarm pulled by Reggie and Junior. And Justin goes on to tattle on them, but we'll get to that. So, Appleby asks Justin if he knows who pulled the alarm, and firefighters say a false alarm stops them from getting to the real fires. Feels like this is a PSA, the more you know. Da, da, da. Anyways, so it prevents them from getting to the real fires that, of course, they will appear way too quickly to stop. Like they did this one. So, Kat wants Justin to confess, and Justin tells the truth about what had happened. So, Divatox, Porto, Rygog realize false alarms might be a strategy against the Rangers. False alarms, I don't know why they're turning that into a weird thing, but, like, really, if anything, it ties in more to, like, the fire department than it does to the Power Rangers. I guess, like, they got their wires crossed of what the Rangers actually do. You know what? If this was Lightspeed Rescue, then the Rangers would go on and, like, that would make more sense for that season, but not for this one. So, Divatox and Elgar are to somehow be related? I see the family resistance, but resemblance somewhere, right? So, we have Piranhatrons who, whenever I'm to have to remember what Piranhatrons are, I have to call them Petrons somewhere. So, Piranhatrons are sent to cover alarms, so Tommy is at the youth center, and an alarm gets pulled there. Justin gets confronted by Reggie and is so close to get into a fight as Justin takes out his Morpher key and is tempted to use it. We have another alarm that goes off in the school as Kat interrupts the fight that's about to happen. Appleby calls for everyone's attention because she is to tell everyone that the school will be closed until they can understand what's going on with all of these alarms. So, next up, we have Bulk and Skull chimp style in it. Chimpanzees they are within this episode. And so, they are bringing drinks to Tanya, Adam, and maybe at some point Tommy. Didn't really see a drink by him. But so, as Stone couldn't understand what the whole alarm was about, the chimps play with Elgar as he is kind of looking into this telescope, and so the chimps are kind of seeing this this thing kind of popping up, so they're smacking it, and Stone tells the Rangers to treat every fire as if it's real, and Stone gets hit with a bucket of water by the chimps as another fire alarm goes off. It's like, yeah, oh my god. So the Rangers feel the alarm might have a Divatox connection. And so Divatox takes a detonator. Let me get a little bit closer here. Divatox takes a detonator disguised as a fire extinguisher to go to the surface with Elgar and Rygog. So Justin talks about Justin needing to fight Reggie and Junior sooner or later because of the alarm prank. So Kat said fighting isn't the answer, as all of a sudden we have Kat and Justin who go on to need to fight with Piranhatrons instead of just reasoning with them. Maybe they can go on and come up with some kind of rapport or understanding. Like, hey, Piranhatrons, like, why are you going on and doing this? Why is this like your goal for the day, to just fight us? Like, you know what? How about you just, Piranhatrons, how about you just sit in the couch and I'll just like ask about your mother? Were you not hugged as a kid? I don't know. So the firemen run off to an alarm for Elgar and Rygog to plant a bomb on a fire truck and disappear. They're going to be doing quite a bit of that in this episode. So the Rangers are to be at the power chamber as Tawny asks about the alarms, and Divatox wants them to be confused, and the Rangers know there's a detonator out there somewhere. I don't know how they know it, but they know it. Maybe there is just having some psychic connections, as of course maybe Zordon would have had in certain episodes. So we go on to have Alpha tell the Rangers to inform her if they find anything, so that way she can go and alert any of the other Rangers, because they're going to separate and try to find this detonator. Where are the detonators? What is this, Die Hard? Is frickin' Hans Gruber going to come in and try to figure out where the detonators are? Yippee-ki-yay, mother trucker! Come on! Fire trucker? Anyways, so Justin can't seem to stop bumping into Reggie and Junior, as he's like, man, I'm just kind of getting sick of this at this point. And so they decide to split up to find Justin, as Justin is up into a tree and breaks the tree branch and kind of starts to fall, and he all of a sudden teleports. Justin falls, and Alpha is way more concerned about the floor than Alpha is of Justin. We also have to realize this is Power Rangers Turbo, and this is Alpha 6, and we have that weird goofy accent with Alpha for some goofy reason that we keep having to use at later parts of this thing. So, because I guess they could never really get Alpha's voice right, or whatever. Like, you would have thought, like, every single model would have the same voice, because you would have figured that at some point they would have had people who could easily just do the Alpha voice, but also, like, what they end up doing with Alpha, anyways. Moving on. So, through a number of these things, they kind of just more, further and further, it just sounds bad. Anyways, moving on. So, we have Justin that asks what Kat was doing here. Kat was checking up on a signal, as Justin had to teleport to get away from bullies. And Alpha shows that the detonator is moving, and Divatox realizes the detonator will go off in seconds as Justin and Kat morph to have the rest of the Rangers kind of meet up with them. And so they get there just in the nick of time to see that this truck is going to turn into a monster. So this monster ends up turning into the Blazinator, this fire truck. So we have the Rangers that just quickly try to jump on the Blazinator as it is flying through the sky. A fire truck that is flying through the sky, blasting away at all parts of this town. And so we have the Rangers that are trying to figure out how to defeat this Blazinator monster as it goes on to dump all the Rangers off of it, and they fall a pretty good distance, but they don't demorph because of that impact. And we all of a sudden bizarrely have Rygog, who is talking about weenies for some goofy reason. And so Porto and Elgar are also there, but they won't be there for very long. So they all three disappear, and the monster doesn't attack. And so the Rangers realize that they need to use their auto blasters, their blaster weapons, to combine this all together to destroy the Blazinator. And so I'm like, oh my god, like this is kind of like any other Time of Witch where you would go on and have these like big, massive, like episodes where you'd have like so many Rangers together, and they would all just decide like, yeah, let's just all bring our blasters together and fire upon this object and destroy it that way because we have nothing else that we can do. And so, bizarrely, that must be the strategy for this episode. It's like, well, hey, like, I don't know how we can really defeat this monster, so let's just blast it to death and hope that works. And immediately it does. I'm like, what a flimsy way to beat this monster. You could have had, like, the cannon, like, come out, and I would have justified that even more to have wiped out this monster by blasting it with a cannon. But no, you didn't even do that. You were too lazy to whip out that cannon blaster thingy and take out that monster. Laziness, I tell you. So the Rangers find the firefighters. Divatox is to confirm what had just happened, and as Elgar is talking about like hot and fire and whatever, we have Divatox that is to bring up the Maranthius, and is to have Elgar like suffer the fate of that. So Justin is to again meet up with Reggie, and it seems that there's going to be a fight here. And we have Reggie, who mistakenly brings up something about Justin's parents. And Justin's like, won't have parents. Not here. And Reggie is just like, well, hey, like, you and me both. And that is to be the one thing that connects them together, is the not having parents thing. And so we all of a sudden have Justin, who's like, well, hey, man, like, how about instead of you cheating off me on every test, which would be the easy thing to do, how about instead I try and tutor you so that way, like, you can go on and, like, do well on these tests, like, on your own. And so they agree to that, and that goes on to write us out of this episode. So with that said, let's go on into the Power Rangers in Space episode 5 of a Kind. So, at the beginning of this, we have Dark Spectre, who, of course, is to have been from also the Power Rangers Turbo movie as a completely different character, but we shouldn't be talking about that, right? So, the Dark Spectre talks to Astronema as his powers are being drained from Earth and wants Astronema to destroy whoever that may be who is draining his power. So Astronema's like, well, yeah, like I had everything like prepped and ready to go just for that one thing. Good for me, right? So Cassie realizes the Pink Psycho Ranger is gone, and the Ranger should take advantage of that because it's a 4-on-5 situation. And if you really count Zane as a Ranger, it seems there would be a 6-on-5 situation. Again, outnumbered. But it seems that when like Zane would come in here, like the Psycho Rangers would either leave, or like when Zane would kind of come in, he would kind of take over and start beating up some of the Psychos. So, anyways, but here is also the counter to that. They also start to realize that the Psycho Rangers are too powerful. TJ realizes the Psycho Rangers connect to their minds and kind of know how to defeat them. So the strategy is that since all the Psycho Rangers would connect their minds to their specific color, that they need to change up and not have the colors match. And so TJ kind of puts on this chessboard to say, like, okay, like, you red, you need to be over here. You red, you green over, you black, you whatever. Green is not a color here, my bad. Green is going to be a Psycho Ranger in the comic books, but of course not here. Moving on. As a alert sounds, we have the Rangers going off to fight the Psycho Rangers. We have the Red Ranger that fights the Psycho Yellow. In Space Black fights Psycho Blue. Yellow and Pink fights Psycho Red. We have Blue that fights Psycho Black. So Psycho Blue realizes they thought this through and switches back to the Blue Ranger for Carlos to be like, oh no! And then Psycho Black is like, aha! And then, like, we're starting to realize that this is to be a mistake. So Zane arrives on his cycle to assist. Zane picks up a fallen Pink Ranger as Zane uses Zane uses his super silverizer to deflect Psycho Blue's weapon, his axe. As Astronema looks at her screen from the Dark Fortress, and Dark Spectre comes on the screen to alert Astronema about his power being drained again. And so Astronema has Ecliptor stop the fight, and we next see Zane holding TJ, unsure if he's okay. Even TJ doesn't even know. TJ gets flashbacks to the fight as he wakes next to Ashley and Zane, calming him down, realizing, like, well, hey, like, you did fight the Psycho Rangers, but, like, but it's okay now. Like, you're okay. Like, you're just bandaged up. So TJ realized the plan had backfired as the Rangers tell TJ to just, hey man, like, just rest. Like, we have one Ranger down. Like, the Psycho Rangers, we're not going to be beating them anytime soon unless you come up with something, TJ. It's all up to you. So Psycho Blue tells the other Psycho Rangers he was so close to defeating TJ, and the Psychos don't want to be toyed with. As Ecliptor tells Astronomer, it's like, well, hey, like they're really wanting to go on and just like fight again against these Rangers, and so Astronomer's like, well, good, because that'll mean that they'll really go on and burn a lot more energy from Dark Spectre, who of course was Malachor in the Turbo movie, correct? Hopefully. So, Malachor. Green Lantern Corps? I don't know. Anyways, moving on. So, Cassie wants to bring TJ food and realize that TJ is not even in the room that he was in, resting. And Cassie finds that instead TJ is in a room looking at footage because he really wants to see those dailies of this episode to just kind of see, like, man, which take did they use? Man, like, I really didn't look good in that take. If they would only just give me, like, one more, I think I would have been really good in this one. Do you think so, Cassie? So, they can't really find a weakness for the Psycho Rangers. Like, yeah, like, it seems like they're just so, like clockwork with their attacks. And so TJ goes on and is to try to adjust this footage, and then all of a sudden, like, the color fades, and we have TJ that's like, oh my god, that's it! We need to start seeing older movies! Man, let me go on and see some Creature of the Black Lagoon. Let me see that old Dracula. Like, let's whip out some old films. Like, we need to really see some stuff in black and white. What about Logan? Logan's in black and white. Let's see that. Or maybe, is it the Wolverine or is it the Logan that's black and white? I'm not quite sure. But either way, black and white movies. So, TJ runs to Andros, and I guess all the rest of the Rangers were alerted that they needed to be here also to hear what TJ has to say. So, TJ has spray paint because he's going to go on and do some graffiti sometime soon. Weird joke. And so, TJ goes on and is to start spraying all the Rangers, and weirdly enough, we just have to kind of cut, and then all the figures are now all blue, and we have them go on about, oh my god, yeah, like, that's, like, why didn't we think of it? Why is it that, like, only, like, Super Megaforce could have only have thought of that? Besides us. Like, man, that's a good idea! How is it that every time all these monsters would go on and, like, they would, like, doppelgang and look like us, and, like, we couldn't figure out how to beat them, but we wouldn't go on and take that same route. So, TJ confronts the Psycho Rangers, and Blue Rangers all of a sudden start to multiply. Not only is TJ coming in, but then we start to have other, all seemingly male-looking Power Rangers, as even the women are to, like, so they actually get that right, even though it still comes off as weird. Because wouldn't the girls be girls, but still, like, then you would know that it's like, okay, well, those obviously aren't the real Blue Rangers. So yeah, it is what it is. So Red and Black randomly just start picking certain Rangers as, like, Psycho Blue is trying to fight off uh, whatever random Ranger it picked. So when Red and Black try to confront whoever these Rangers that they are attacking are, they realize that it's definitely not their Rangers that they should be fighting. So we have TJ that comes in and is to take his Astro Blaster and blast the Psycho Rangers, and we're doing pretty well here. So an electrified attack ends up hitting the Rangers, and we find out that there is to all of a sudden be a silver Psycho Ranger. It's like, oh no! And so we have the Psycho Silver Ranger that starts attacking all the other Rangers, and some of the Psychos are starting to get upset. And so we have Psycho Blue that attacks Psycho Red and Black to want to himself take on Psycho Silver. And so we then have Red and Black that are like, oh, okay, all right, like, well, like, sayonara, I'm getting out of here. So Psycho Blue attacks Silver, and TJ attacks Psycho Blue. And so finally the Rangers reveal their true colors, and Zane reveals that he is not Silver Psycho Ranger. And so it's like, well, yeah, like, of course, like I'm working with them. Ha 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 ha. Suck it. So Zane is to now have to morph to have TJ's Astro Axe and Zane's Super Silverizer take down Psycho Blue, but not completely wipe him out. As Astronema is to tell Ecliptor, hey, let's fire the saddle lasers, and make Psycho Blue turn into this giant monsterish thing instead of its Ranger form like it usually is. Again, I would probably look up what this monster is to have an actual name of, but I would probably just call it Psycho Blue anyways. So we have the Rangers call for the Mega Voyager, and we have Zane that is to call for the Mega Winger. So the Psycho Blue monster freezes the Mega Voyager in place. As it goes on, it just kind of takes on the Mega Winger. Because this feels like I'm just popping into my head the movie Stripes with Bill Murray, where Bill Murray's character's name is Winger. And so the Rangers decide to come up with a strategy to turn the heat on into the Megazord to thaw themselves out. And so after they finally seem to be able to thaw themselves, we have TJ that tells them, oh, no, like, hey guys, like, let's keep this heat on so that he can go to our lasers so that way we can do, like, this mega laser fire. And as their Mega Wing transfers, like, a piece of it to the Mega Voyager, the Rangers fire their Mega V3 missile to destroy the Psycho Blue monster. Ecliptor reminds Astronema that there are only 3 Psycho Rangers remaining, as even the Psycho Rangers would come into Astronema to tell her that themselves. So we have to hear this twice? Why? Did they really just needed to eat up some time here? So, because obviously with the way this episode ends, I could really just understand that. And so, it seems that Astronema is to have a plan, so he's huddling up all the Psycho Rangers together to state whatever that is. And so Next, we have Andros and Zane that are talking about uh, fixing up the Astro Mega ship, so that way, if they are to ever need it to be the Astro Megazord, then like they'll kind of have all things kind of prepared here, as like anything could happen with these Psycho Rangers, and they might need everything that they can possibly get their hands on to try to defeat these psychos. So we go on to have Andros, who's kind of just making his way through the ship, asking, of course, Carlos and Cassie, about things they're fixing and they're working on it. And so then Andros makes his way to TJ, who is working on like some welding thing and some panel. And so Andros starts talking to TJ about like, well, hey, yeah, like my sister, and like he's like thinking about like, well, man, like I thought like I was like gonna get my sister back, but I guess not, and like she just must hate us, and so like they're talking about how like they do have fewer Psycho Rangers, but like like the Psycho Rangers are strong enough. Like it's very unexpected if they're going to go on and beat every single one of these, and that'll probably be a lot harder to go on and beat them. So yeah, so that's how they kind of finish up with this episode, and that's how I'm going to go on and finish up this review. Yeah, this goes over an hour. My bad, but I also realized that there's some of these episodes that do have like a certain time thing of like 22 or 20 or whatever. So with that said, I'm going to go on and get out of here. Thank you guys for going on and listening to these, or at some point being a part of whatever these videos go on and do. So thank you, because I really do appreciate it. I'm going to try and get out of here. Hopefully I will go on and do another one of these soon. Hopefully I can just find some really good Power Rangers episodes. And so with that said, goodbye everybody. Goodbye everybody.